The blood drained from Marcus Chen's face as he watched the security footage on my hidden tablet, showing his wife Sarah passionately kissing his business partner and best friend David Rodriguez in the very conference room where they had signed their partnership agreement 3 years earlier. But the real shock came when David whispered into Sarah's ear, "Once I sell the AI technology to Beijing tomorrow, we'll have $50 million and Marcus will have nothing. No company, no wife, no future." What Marcus didn't know was that Uncle Sam, had been working as their night janitor for 8 months, systematically documenting the most elaborate personal and professional betrayal in Silicon Valley history while building an airtight case that would destroy David's life and save Marcus's company. You see, I wasn't just any cleaning person emptying trash cans in their tech startup offices. I was conducting an undercover investigation into corporate espionage that had attracted the attention of federal agencies concerned about Chinese technology theft. David Rodriguez wasn't just stealing his best friend's wife and revolutionary AI algorithms. He was committing treason by selling American military-grade artificial intelligence to foreign competitors, who planned to use it against our own defense systems. Before I tell you how I exposed the ultimate Silicon Valley betrayal that combined marriage destruction with corporate espionage and international crime, let me ask you something that might hit close to home. Have you ever trusted someone completely only to discover they were systematically destroying your life while pretending to care about you? Drop your city in the comments and tell me about the worst betrayal you've ever experienced from someone you considered family. Because what you're about to hear will make every friendship betrayal story seem like child's play. Now, please forgive me for taking a moment to settle into my chair properly. These stories of deep personal betrayal always affect me more than the simple corporate fraud cases. And at my age, witnessing the complete destruction of trust between lifelong friends requires me to pause and remember why these stories matter. Thank you for your patience with an old janitor who still believes that loyalty and integrity should mean something in both business and marriage. To understand how David Rodriguez orchestrated the most sophisticated personal and professional betrayal in tech industry history, we need to go back 4 years to when two brilliant MIT graduates decided to revolutionize artificial intelligence by combining their complementary skills and shared vision of changing the world through technology. Marcus Chen was the technical genius who could develop AI algorithms that seemed to think and learn like human beings, while David Rodriguez was the charismatic business strategist who could turn breakthrough technology into billion-dollar companies. Their friendship had begun in college when they were assigned as roommates during their freshman year at MIT. Despite coming from completely different backgrounds, Marcus from a middle-class immigrant family in California, David from wealthy Cuban exile families in Miami, they discovered a shared passion for pushing technological boundaries and building companies that could solve humanity's most complex problems. The AI technology that would become the center of their partnership was Marcus's brainchild, developed during late-night coding sessions in their cramped Boston apartment, while David provided emotional support, business insights, and unwavering encouragement. The breakthrough came when Marcus figured out how to create neural networks that could adapt and improve their own programming without human intervention, essentially creating artificial intelligence that could evolve and become more sophisticated over time. The commercial applications were staggering: military defense systems that could predict and counter enemy strategies in real time, medical diagnostic tools that could identify diseases with superhuman accuracy, financial algorithms that could prevent market crashes by analyzing patterns invisible to human traders. Conservative estimates suggested the technology could generate over $20 billion in licensing revenue within 5 years of market introduction. When they graduated and decided to commercialize Marcus's AI breakthrough, the partnership seemed perfect and equitable. Marcus would maintain ownership of all technical intellectual property and serve as chief technology officer, while David would handle business development, investor relations, and strategic planning as chief executive officer. They formalized their agreement through a comprehensive partnership contract that specified profit sharing, decision-making authority, and intellectual property rights. What Marcus didn't realize was that David had been planning to steal the technology from the very beginning of their partnership. The wealthy, charismatic business graduate had never intended to build a legitimate company. He had identified Marcus as a brilliant but naive who could be exploited for financial gain through carefully orchestrated betrayal. The theft began almost immediately after they incorporated Neural Tech Solutions and established their headquarters in a prestigious Silicon Valley office building. David insisted on having complete access to all technical documentation and source code, claiming that potential investors would require full transparency about the company's intellectual property assets. He also convinced Marcus to grant him administrative access to all development servers and databases, arguing that business partners needed to understand the technology they were representing. Over the following months, David systematically copied every piece of Marcus' revolutionary AI code while simultaneously establishing relationships with Chinese technology companies and government entities interested in acquiring American artificial intelligence capabilities. The plan was sophisticated and patient. David would continue collaborating with Marcus to refine and improve the technology while secretly negotiating deals that would allow him to sell the completed systems to foreign buyers. But David's betrayal extended far beyond corporate espionage and intellectual property theft. He had also identified Marcus's personal life as another opportunity for exploitation and destruction. Marcus had married his college sweetheart, Sarah Martinez, a successful marketing executive who had given up her own career ambitions to support her husband's entrepreneurial dreams and help build their technology startup. Sarah was everything Marcus treasured: intelligent, loyal, beautiful, and completely devoted to their shared vision of building a successful company and happy family. She handled marketing and public relations for Neural Tech Solutions while Marcus focused on technical development, creating the kind of power couple partnership that Silicon Valley mythology celebrates as the foundation of great entrepreneurial success. What Marcus didn't know was that David had been systematically seducing Sarah from the very beginning of their business partnership, using his knowledge of Marcus's work schedule, travel commitments, and personal insecurities to gradually undermine their marriage while positioning himself as a more attractive alternative to her increasingly distracted husband. The seduction was patient and sophisticated, beginning with innocent business consultations that gradually became personal conversations about Sarah's dreams, frustrations, and unmet emotional needs. David presented himself as someone who truly understood and appreciated her intelligence and ambition, contrasting himself with Marcus, who was becoming increasingly obsessed with technical problems and less attentive to the relationship. David's strategy was psychologically manipulative and emotionally predatory. He identified Sarah's growing frustration with feeling like a secondary priority in Marcus's life and exploited those feelings by offering the attention and validation that her husband was failing to provide. The affair began as emotional intimacy that gradually escalated into physical betrayal, all while David maintained his facade as Marcus's loyal business partner and trusted friend. My involvement in exposing this elaborate double betrayal began when Neural Tech Solutions security consultant recommended hiring additional night staff to maintain their offices in the high-tech building where they had established their headquarters. The company was concerned about protecting their revolutionary AI technology from corporate espionage, not realizing that the biggest threat came from within their own leadership team. Getting hired as their night janitor required suppressing my decades of investigative experience, while presenting myself as someone who desperately needed employment but posed no security threat to their valuable intellectual property. I created a backstory as a retired factory worker whose pension had been lost in corporate bankruptcy, leaving me with no choice but to accept whatever work I could find in my late 60s. The building's management company hired me without extensive background checks, assuming that an elderly man with cleaning cart could possibly threaten the security of revolutionary technology worth billions of dollars. What they didn't know was that my real purpose was investigating reports of suspicious activity that had attracted federal attention from agencies concerned about technology transferred to foreign competitors. My first month working in Neural Tech Solutions offices revealed a company that appeared to be thriving under the collaborative leadership of two brilliant entrepreneurs who shared a vision of revolutionizing artificial intelligence. Marcus worked long hours perfecting his algorithms while David handled investor meetings, partnership negotiations, and strategic planning. Sarah managed marketing campaigns and public relations, creating the impression of a successful startup led by dedicated founders supported by loyal spouses. But careful observation during my night cleaning sessions revealed subtle signs of tension and deception that suggested something was fundamentally wrong with this picture of entrepreneurial harmony. David's office contained documents and communications that seemed inconsistent with legitimate business activities, including encrypted files, foreign contact lists, and financial records that didn't match the company's official accounting. More concerning, I began noticing that David and Sarah were staying late at the office together, while Marcus was traveling to technical conferences or meeting with potential clients. Their interactions during these private sessions seemed far more intimate than appropriate for business colleagues, and their conversations often stopped abruptly when other employees were present. The breakthrough in my investigation came when I discovered that David had been using the company's secure servers to store encrypted communications, with contacts that preliminary research suggested were connected to Chinese technology acquisition programs. The files were hidden within legitimate business documents, but the encryption patterns and communication frequency suggested systematic information transfer rather than normal commercial correspondence. Getting access to these encrypted communications required patience and technical skills I had developed during decades of corporate investigation. Over several weeks, I installed keyloggers on David Dest's personal computer that allowed me to capture the passwords and decryption keys he used to access his hidden files and communication channels. What I discovered exceeded my worst expectations and revealed a betrayal so comprehensive that it encompassed every aspect of Marcus' professional and personal life. David had been in regular contact with Chinese military technology acquisition specialists for over 18 months, providing detailed technical documentation about Marcus' AI breakthrough, while negotiating a sale agreement that would transfer complete ownership of the technology to foreign competitors. The communications revealed that David's plan was to complete the technology sale within 3 months, immediately after Marcus finished developing the final components that would make the AI system fully operational. The agreed-upon price was $50 million, with David receiving the entire payment while Marcus would be left with a worthless company that no longer owned its core intellectual property. But the most shocking discovery was the extent of David's personal betrayal of his best friend and business partner. The encrypted files contained hundreds of photographs and videos documenting David's affair with Sarah, along with detailed communications where they discussed their plans to destroy Marcus's marriage while stealing his company's technology. The correspondence between David and Sarah revealed a level of callousness and cruelty that was difficult to comprehend. They discussed Marcus's work habits, travel schedule, and personal insecurities with the detached analysis that predators use to identify and exploit their victims' vulnerabilities. Sarah shared confidential information about Marcus's emotional state, financial concerns, and business strategies that David then used to manipulate their partnership negotiations. Most damaging, I discovered audio recordings of conversations where David and Sarah explicitly discussed their plan to time the affair revelation to maximize psychological damage to Marcus while minimizing any negative impact on their ability to profit from selling his intellectual property. They calculated that destroying his marriage immediately after stealing his company would leave Marcus too emotionally devastated to mount effective legal resistance. Let me pause here for a moment to take a deep breath and compose myself. Even after all these years of investigating corporate betrayals and personal deceptions, the level of calculated cruelty that David and Sarah displayed toward someone who trusted them completely still makes me physically ill. At my age, having witnessed so much human evil disguised as friendship and love, I sometimes wonder how people can live with themselves after choosing to destroy those who cared about them most. The evidence I was gathering required coordination with federal authorities who could act on the technology transfer crimes while also helping Marcus understand the full scope of the betrayal he was facing. Working through contacts I had developed during previous investigations, I reached out to FBI agents who specialized in economic espionage and technology theft cases involving foreign competitors. Agent Jennifer Walsh, a veteran investigator with the FBI's Economic Espionage Unit, initially treated my allegations with professional skepticism, but agreed to review the evidence I had collected. When she saw David's encrypted communications with Chinese technology acquisition specialists and the comprehensive documentation of intellectual property theft, she immediately escalated the case to the Bureau's National Security Division. The FBI's investigation revealed that David's David's betrayal was part of a much larger pattern of Chinese efforts to acquire American artificial intelligence capabilities through corporate espionage and strategic recruitment of compromised insiders. The agency had been tracking several similar cases where business partners, employees, or contractors had been recruited to steal valuable technology from American companies. But Agent Walsh also recognized that the personal dimensions of David's betrayal created unique opportunities to expose his criminal activities while gathering evidence that could be used to prosecute broader technology theft networks. The plan she developed required me to continue my undercover work while installing sophisticated surveillance equipment that would capture David's communications and activities. The most dangerous phase of my investigation began when David started becoming suspicious about security leaks that were allowing Marcus to anticipate and counter some of his manipulation strategies. Marcus had begun asking uncomfortable questions about certain business decisions and partnership agreements, suggesting that someone was providing him with information about David's true intentions. David suspected that someone with access to his private communications was monitoring his activities and reporting to Marcus or potentially to federal authorities. His investigation focused on employees and contractors who had access to the offices during non-business hours, which naturally included the night cleaning staff and building security personnel. The confrontation that would expose David as dual betrayal began when he installed hidden cameras in his office to identify whoever was accessing his confidential files and communications. What David didn't realize was that FBI surveillance specialists had already identified his security measures and had provided me with equipment that could detect and disable his monitoring systems. The plan Agent Walsh developed was risky but necessary. I would allow David to discover evidence of surveillance while ensuring that his reaction would be captured by FBI recording equipment. The strategy required David to reveal his criminal activities while demonstrating his willingness to use violence or intimidation to protect his betrayal conspiracy. The night that would end David's double life began when he arranged what he described to Sarah as their final strategy meeting before implementing their plan to simultaneously steal Marcus' technology and destroy his marriage. What neither of them knew was that Marcus himself was hidden in the building, positioned where he could directly witness their betrayal while FBI agents recorded every word of their conversation. Agent Walsh had convinced Marcus to participate in the surveillance operation by showing him preliminary evidence of David's technology theft and marital betrayal. The proof was so overwhelming and devastating that Marcus initially refused to believe his best friend and wife could be capable of such systematic deception and cruelty. But Marcus's technical expertise allowed him to verify the authenticity of the encrypted communications, financial records, and surveillance footage that documented the full scope of David and Sarah's conspiracy. When he realized that everything he had built and everyone he loved was being destroyed by the two people he trusted most, he agreed to participate in whatever was necessary to expose their crimes and protect his intellectual property. The meeting I witnessed through hidden cameras was a masterclass in criminal arrogance and personal evil. David and Sarah discussed their final preparations for selling Marcus's eye technology, while celebrating their success in manipulating and deceiving someone who had treated them both with complete trust and loyalty. Marcus is so pathetically naive, Sarah laughed while reviewing photographs of stolen technical documents. He actually believes that we care about his dreams and his precious technology. Tomorrow, when we disappear with $50 million, he'll finally understand what kind of person he really married and who his best friend actually was. David nodded and outlined his plan for transferring the technology to Chinese buyers while ensuring that Marcus would be left with worthless patent applications and empty development servers. The beauty of this operation is that by the time Marcus realizes what happened, the technology will be in Beijing and there won't be anything he can do to recover it or prove that we stole it, but the most devastating moment came when they discussed the psychological impact they hoped their betrayal would have on Marcus's emotional stability and future career prospects. "I want him broken completely," Sarah explained with casual cruelty. "Not just financially, but emotionally and professionally. I want him to never trust anyone again and to blame himself for being stupid enough to believe that we actually cared about him. The FBI tactical team moved in at exactly 11:30 p.m., just as David was preparing to complete the final technology transfer to his Chinese contacts. The arrests were swift and coordinated, with agents simultaneously raiding David's apartment, Sarah's residence, and the offshore banking facilities where they had been preparing to receive their payment for selling stolen intellectual property. Marcus emerged from his hiding place to confront the two people who had systematically destroyed every aspect of his professional and personal life while pretending to support and love him. His reaction was a mixture of devastation and rage. That was painful to witness, the complete collapse of someone whose entire worldview had been based on trust and partnership. How could you do this to me? Marcus asked through tears that mixed grief with fury. David, you were my brother. Sarah, you were my wife, my partner, my best friend. I shared everything with you. My dreams, my work, my life. How could you choose to destroy me while pretending to care? Sarah's response revealed the depth of her psychological cruelty and complete absence of empathy for the man she had promised to love and support. You were always too weak and too trusting, she replied with cold indifference. David, and I knew from the beginning that you would be easy to manipulate because you actually believed that. Loyalty and friendship meant something. We never cared about you or your stupid technology. We only cared about what we could get from pretending to care. David's reaction was equally callous and revealed. His complete lack of remorse for betraying the person who had trusted him most completely. Marcus, you need to understand that this was never personal. It was just business. Your technology was worth $50 million, and your wife was beautiful and available. You were too naive to protect either one, so we took both. That's how the world actually works. The federal charges against David Rodriguez and Sarah Chun were comprehensive and carried potential sentences that could keep them in prison for decades. David was charged with economic espionage, theft of trade secrets, conspiracy to commit technology transfer to foreign competitors, and violation of the Espionage Act. Each charge carried maximum sentences of 10 to 20 years in federal prison. Sarah was charged with conspiracy to commit economic espionage, accessory to theft of intellectual property, and conspiracy to defraud. Although her role was primarily personal rather than technical, her participation in the technology theft conspiracy and her access to confidential business information made her legally complicit in David's crimes. The evidence against both defendants was overwhelming and undeniable. FBI agents had recovered complete copies of Marcus's stolen AI technology from David's encrypted servers, along with detailed communications with Chinese technology acquisition, specialists and financial records proving payments for transferring stolen intellectual property. The surveillance recordings I had gathered provided devastating proof of their personal betrayal and their deliberate planning to destroy Marcus's life while profiting from his work and trust. The recordings captured them discussing their crimes with casual indifference and obvious pleasure in their ability to deceive and manipulate someone who loved them. The trial became a landmark case in corporate espionage prosecution and attracted international attention as an example of how personal relationships could be weaponized to facilitate technology theft and economic espionage. Legal experts testified about the sophisticated methods that foreign competitors were using to recruit American insiders and steal valuable intellectual property. Marcus's testimony was heartbreaking and powerful, demonstrating how personal betrayal could be used as a weapon to destroy someone's ability to protect their legitimate business interests. He described the complete collapse of his ability to trust others and his ongoing struggle to rebuild both his company and his personal life after discovering that the two people closest to him had been systematically destroying him. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all charges against both David Rodriguez and Sarah Chen. David was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without possibility of parole, while Sarah received 15 years for her role in the conspiracy. But The most satisfying aspect of their prosecution was the complete financial destruction that accompanied their criminal convictions. All assets they had acquired through their betrayal conspiracy were seized and returned to Marcus, while their legal defense costs consumed any remaining personal wealth they had accumulated. The broader impact of exposing David and Sarah's betrayal extended far beyond individual justice and created lasting changes in how technology companies protect themselves from both external espionage and internal betrayal. Marcus used his experience to develop new security protocols and partnership agreements that prevent future theft while ensuring that personal relationships cannot be weaponized to facilitate corporate crimes. Neural tech solutions not only survived David's betrayal, but emerged stronger and more valuable than ever. With his intellectual property protected and his company's security enhanced, Marcus was able to complete development of his revolutionary AI technology and establish legitimate licensing agreements that generated billions in revenue while maintaining American control of critical capabilities. Marcus also used his experience to establish a foundation that provides support and resources for entrepreneurs who have been betrayed by business partners or family members. The foundation offers legal assistance, emotional counseling, and business development services for people whose trust has been weaponized against them by those they loved and trusted. My role in exposing this elaborate betrayal remained one of the most personally satisfying investigations of my career because it demonstrated how systematic documentation and patient surveillance could protect honest innovators from sophisticated predators who used personal relationships to facilitate professional destruction. The case also highlighted the importance of federal prosecution for technology crimes that threaten national security interests, proving that corporate espionage cases could be successfully prosecuted, even when they involved complex personal relationships and emotional manipulation. Years later, Marcus rebuilt both his company and his personal life, eventually remarrying and establishing Neuraltech Solutions as one of Silicon Valley's most successful artificial intelligence companies. His experience with betrayal made him more cautious about trust, but also more appreciative of genuine loyalty and partnership. David Rodriguez and Sarah Chen remained in federal prison, their names permanently associated with one of the most comprehensive betrayals in Silicon Valley history. Their case became a cautionary tale about how greed and selfishness could destroy not only their victims, but ultimately themselves through criminal prosecution and permanent disgrace. The broader technology industry learned important lessons about protecting intellectual property from both external espionage and internal betrayal, implementing new security measures and partnership agreements designed to prevent future cases of personal relationships being weaponized to facilitate corporate theft. As I reflect on this case, I am struck by how David and Sarah's complete abandonment of loyalty and ethics ultimately led to their own destruction while strengthening Marcus' resolve to build something meaningful and lasting. Their betrayal revealed the difference between people who view relationships as opportunities for exploitation versus those who see them as foundations for mutual support and shared achievement. The investigation also demonstrated the importance of having people in positions where they can observe and document corporate crimes, even when those positions seem insignificant. My work as a night janitor provided access to evidence that more traditional investigators might never have discovered, proving that justice sometimes comes from the most unexpected sources. So, what do you think about friendship and business partnerships in today's competitive world? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Or have you witnessed business partners destroying each other for money and power? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what city you re-watching from and share any experiences you've had with people who used your trust against you. But before you go, I need to tell you about Uncle Sam's next investigation, because it involves something that will shock you about the charity industry and how good intentions can be twisted into pure evil. Picture this: a children's charity director who discovered that her board members were embezzling millions intended for sick kids. But instead of stopping them, she demanded a larger share of the stolen money while covering up their crimes. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, Because Uncle Sam's next story exposes eyewitness a children charity director. Steal money from dying kids. My evidence exposed the most heartless fraud imaginable. The lesson from Marcus, David, and Sarah's story remains clear. Trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. But that trust must be protected through verification and accountability. Because sometimes the people we love most are the same ones who will destroy us most completely if we give them the opportunity. And sometimes it takes an old janitor with a hidden camera to expose the truth that saves someone. Life work from those who would steal everything while pretending to care about nothing.